It's June, which marks Louder with Crowder's annual Cultural Appropriation Month. Oh, that's nice. Hey!
I'm doing great, brother.
Buenos dias.
Where we take you on a journey to explore all of the wonderful, distinct, and mysterious cultures our great planet has to offer.
Glad to be with you, man.
Well, it's no hookup. Send in your costumes. You can send them in on Mug Club. We have the costume contest winners, of course, on Mug Club with... Oh, look at that. That person is actually there in the desert.
He's got a prop.
It's tough getting through the airport on the way home.
That is a tough way. You think it's tough for you. Imagine that guy going through the middle of the thing. Wow. I think I know what you are. First, I thought you were a hologram, like Tupac. You can just comment below if you want us to keep doing Cultural Appropriation Month. It's a lot of work for something this silly. And you can send in your costumes. louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. Because to appropriate is to appreciate.
Hold up there, you! Your ship is violating our dock's community guidelines. It'll be 1 shilling for the violations, and I shall have to have your name.
How about 3 shillings and we forget about the violations and the name?
Well, welcome to YouTube, Mr. Smith.
Captain Morgan.
Yes, of course. Mr. Smith. But what about your vessel?
Don't worry. We got a much nicer one down at the Rumble Docks.
What kind of ship would that be?
Well, it's certainly not a censorship.
Join the fight today for $89 annually at Louder with Crowder.com/mugclub. Or you can go mugless for $9 monthly. But it's not as fun. You best start believing in Mug Club. You're in one. Potentially.
Can't
I forget how to drink?
Yeah, a little bit.
The front of my...
Drips.
Glad to be with you this Monday. And behold, fat Crowder.
Stop it.
Wait, what?
I ate so much yesterday, and nothing fits today. Like, I've always joked where people are like, I feel bloated. No, I put myself on the scale. It's like a solid 6 pounds heavier.
Wow.
Than before the morning.
Let's see it.
Happy Father's Day to you.
Let's see a turnaround.
I ate a lot.
You ate your fill.
I did.
And 5 other
It
people.
was like 6,000 calories.
What?
It's a Philly cheesesteak,
That's breakfast for me.
extra cheese,
Extra
add an
whiz.
egg on top of it, add grilled onions,
Oh boy.
also a chili cheeseburger with that, fries, Oreo milkshake,
Your toilet was a crime scene this
Nutella
morning.
Nutter Butter milkshake, then chicken truffle Alfredo,
Oh, jeez.
box of cookies, pint of ice cream.
What happened?
You're over 5,000.
Who hurt you?
But I drank low-fat milk with the cookies. No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
It was full
Diet
fat.
Coke.
And
It
a
was-
Diet Coke. Yeah.
Right at the end. That'll
I
make
have
it
some
better.
extra insulin if you want some.
I also had a traditional Mexican Coke with sugar, which I was like, you know what? Why not?
Screw it. The day's already
So,
ruined.
you know, it was a good Father's Day. Did you enjoy it? Do you have a good Father's Day? I don't really like Father's Day. I think it's a made-up Hallmark holiday. Birthday, Christmas, Easter. Them's the breaks. Don't do Valentine's either, except for when I don't want to get in trouble. We have a lot to talk about today. First off, we do have, well, not first off, but later, we have Dr. Robert Epstein on the program, who has some new research as to how Google is rigging this election, which we all know they've done in the past, but actual studies that show through manipulating search engine algorithms and what data is presented to you, switching 50-50 voting splits to 90-10.
Yep.
Think about that in swing states. Honestly, when I see what is happening, and I would love for you to comment below, this is my genuine sentiment. Right now, I am amazed that a conservative or Republican ever wins, considering the amount of bias and the deck being stacked against them. That being said, if it's an even playing field, I don't think that a liberal or a Democrat would win ever again. With this uphill battle, the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop story was buried, the fact that voting was changed, the fact that COVID was, now not the virus, although that was actually created in the lab, but the COVID pandemic was manufactured deliberately to change election laws, and the fact that it was even close, wherever you line up, is kind of astounding. Take away all of those things, it's not even close. It's a Nixon map. That's really where I am at this point when people talk about election rigging. We're also going to be talking about illegal immigration. We've talked quite a bit about the cost in the past, but we're going to be talking about specifically the violent crime, because that's something you hear quite a bit from the left, that actually immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than natural-born citizens. It's not true. It's not even close to true, and it's important considering that you're seeing a global cabal of people pushing for illegal immigration with this lie as part of their premise. So let me ask you also, what extent do you believe big tech companies like Google can actually affect the elections right now? I've given you my opinion. I'm curious to hear what it is that you think, or read, because I don't think you can leave voice comments. Number 2, in command, Captain Morgan, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Other than the calories, we've talked about this, I guess, a little bit more. But
A little fat.
how do you feel about yourself?
Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Okay.
I feel great shame.
Yeah. Well, it is your fault in this one.
Yeah.
So
I eat very healthily during the week because I don't really enjoy food as we're running and gunning. And then on the weekend, it's just like, you know what?
let it go.
Let it happen. That's what I say to myself.
You do.
My inner voice is a black guy voice.
Is it really?
Hey, let it happen. That's what I hear.
That's
with
usually
the-
what they say before they commit a crime.
Yeah,
Steven.
yeah, it is. Hey, whoa, no. Also, when you hear this, you know, I mean, he's going to be at the Louisville Comedy Club Sunday, July 7th.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Great club. Horrible city. Josh Firestine, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I feel skinny today, actually. You feel fat. I feel skinny.
Really? What'd you do?
Yeah, nothing. I just nothing. I did nothing. No, we went swimming. My daughter had a pool party. She had a birthday pool party this weekend.
Oh, okay.
So I was swimming, tossing kids around in the water. Dude, I love a pool party with kids because their parents are all gone. And you could just...
You know how that sounded.
Wow.
You could just... Okay. Come on. Grow up. Obviously, I'm talking about totally destroying these kids.
Yes.
Throwing them around,
Yes.
tossing them in the pool. They're laughing. I'm like, this is the best.
That's
All
where
my anger is
dads
out.
really shine.
I'm a better dad than Woody Allen, that's for sure.
Yes. I actually, with
Better dad, worse husband. So it's like, what are you going to be?
with Toolman's son, he came over and was playing in the pool, and I was doing the toss. But the thing is, he's very long and he's not very heavy.
No.
Yeah.
And so, whereas my son is kind of like a cannonball, he's very dense. And so I was like, okay, you kind of sit on my knees and like a chair. And he launched. He went so
He loves it.
he launched, and then he went down like a knife and just. And it took him a while before he came back up.
Oh, nice.
It was more of a like, huh? And he kind of.
Did he want you to do it again, though?
Yes, he did.
That's fine.
But I did it softer. He went high. But that's
So much
where it's
joy,
fun.
dude.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, and I wish that someone could do that. Maybe we could get Brian Shaw. We could get him to throw us in the pool.
Cool.
See if
Maybe
he
not
can
me.
throw us
Maybe
as
not me.
high.
He's strong, but you know those little soaky balls. You soak water in them, and
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
then and you can just. They're not Orbeez. They're like little foam balls, like the size of a baseball.
Yeah.
Oh, you can chuck them, dude. You can really get some velocity on there,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really. I mean, a couple welts, but only on my kids.
Yes. Just don't aim for the face, okay?
Yeah.
That's like a snowball.
They're wearing goggles. It's fine.
I have to mention this every single time we mention this date, July 7th. That's 2 days after Josh is playing at a strip, or not a strip club.
Oh, my God.
A sex club. He's playing a sex club on July 5th. July 7th ought to be a rip-roaring show.
Yes.
Well, I'm not doing much playing. I'm going to be
exactly. You're gonna bring
more
the-
observing.
I'm not
Bring
kidding.
the
This is
absorbent
real.
balls.
Taking notes.
This is real.
All right. Okay. This has been a good time reminiscing about yesterday. So this week, here's something that you are seeing right now. And I believe that we have the first clip, the unedited clip first, and then we have, okay. So you've seen this clip everywhere, and now the left is trying to tell you that what you experienced isn't reality.
Right.
Former Vice President Joe Biden was led off stage by Barack Obama. You know, at best, it's a little bit gay, where he has to hold his hand and take him off. At most likely, you know, former Vice President Biden is not able to walk himself off the stage. Here is one continuous shot, and then we'll show you the clip that the left is now circulating to run damage control, telling you this is the unedited clip, but the first one is the actual unedited clip.
Looks like it's shot by a user at the event.
There he is, kind of staring into the abyss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Staring into the abyss.
Yes.
Somebody tried to make the case to me that like, he's probably, and I was like, he's probably what?
Yes.
Who's he interacting with? Did he see like a predator and he's in the wild and his only move is to freeze like a bunny rabbit or something like that? Like,
And the scary part is the hand tug wasn't enough.
Yeah.
There was no reaction. Just the hand tug wasn't enough where he had to do the guiding of the back. Like, you know, like you have someone, a drunken member of your family, and you're like, okay, that's enough. Let's get going. That was
so
I know, and people say it's not a big deal, but here's the thing: Obama's the one doing it. Nobody's ever done that to Obama. No one's ever put their hand on his back and like escorted himself, or Trump, or I mean, any president. No one's been guided out like that on a regular basis.
Do you remember what a huge deal they made of Donald Trump when his hand was shaking one time at the podium with a glass of water?
Oh yeah.
And when my shoulder was that happened to me. It was difficult. I would have to drink with two hands. Like there are a bunch of reasons that can happen. There aren't many reasons that someone would have to tug your hand, you not react, and then guide you by your back as you stare with autism eyes out into zero focus.
Which is not a big deal, really. You get old, but you're the president, dude. Now it's a big deal. You can't even walk your own way. Aerosmith would have a problem.
Yes, I was about to go there. So here is the clip that is running now, and I want to get your opinion if you believe that this is actually less polished, more raw, and an accurate representation. They're saying actually this is the full unedited version.
This is the program feed of the event.
Yeah.
This is their music too?
It's like the
No, we had to swap music.
fourth.
So now they show it at a different angle, so you can't see that he's staring into
Totally
nothing.
froze. Okay.
Where's he staring? Where's he staring?
That's when Obama grabs him.
You don't even see the grab.
Nope. Just walking off, two good friends.
That's the
not to
equivalent to
check
stage
themselves.
combat.
Yeah.
That's the angle you would take to cheat a punch because you don't see it happen.
Yes.
When it's straight on, you see the hand go, squeeze, pull, nothing, back, shove. Let's show the original one again. It's
pretty clear.
Just so you see the contrast. Okay, straight on. He's looking into nothing. He's no longer talking to anyone. Stopped.
Yeah.
All right. Barack Obama goes, now this is bad. Come on, Joe. All right. He stopped. Let's move again, Joe.
Keep going, Joe. No.
I know it's tough, Joe. Walking.
Can you imagine that?
And walking.
just the walking
Just
part.
the walking.
Oh my gosh. He makes the 80-year remembrance of the D-Day veterans. He makes those guys look spry. And
Yes.
those guys were like 100 years old.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. Like, we've made the point, like, yes, it's just somebody who's getting old, and that's totally fine. But it's not fine to be dying in public as you're running for president for 4 more years while the world is kind of on fire.
You know what? A Mission Control pulled this clip. I believe it was Wagner. I don't know if she's on MSNBC, but she was saying, I don't think that the debates are a good idea for Biden because the expectations are so much higher for him. Whereas Donald Trump, the expectations, and I'm almost quoting here, I'm going by rote. Donald Trump, the only expectations are, is he alive? Are words coming out of his mouth?
What?
And he can. It's like the left they accuse you of doing exactly what it is that they do. She said this. She said that the expectations were high of Joe Biden. And the attack against Donald Trump that she used was, is he alive? Are words coming out of his mouth because he's old and the implication was that he was mentally unfit like Joe Biden. You cannot say that Donald Trump is hateful and bombastic and at the same time say he doesn't know where he is and he's old and he's incapable. He's an invalid. You can't. The reason you're mad at him is because what he says, sometimes it can be childish, sure, but it's hilarious and biting. If nothing else, he still burns brightly with hatred, just not against minorities, against the left. That keeps him young. All right.
Yeah, they're calling Trump old and frail as they walk Vladimir the vampire to his coffin to sleep.
I know.
Trump needs a former president to babysit him.
Right, yeah, exactly. Think about that for a second.
That's insane.
Imagine George W. Bush guiding out Trump. You know what would happen? He'd reach for Trump and Trump's hand would go, no.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, he'd go, Tower 7. So.
I know you did it.
That's exactly what he would do. Hey, you know what? This Thursday, it's Cultural Appropriation Month. And this is the final this month because we will be covering the debate live here, a mega live stream of that debate. So this is the final Thursday where we actually can do Cultural Appropriation Month. And this Thursday's culture we are announcing right now, it is Native American. Native American culture right there is what we
homeland.
have. Yeah. So nice.
Oh.
So you can post for the costume contest on X or on Mug Club. Just post an image of yourself with your best Native American costume. Mm-hmm. You have to be holding your mug, and we'll be using the hashtag LWC Native Contest. To appropriate is to appreciate. And we've done some rough ones, but this is going to be a bumpy ride.
We've appreciated the heck out of y'all's culture.
Yes. That brings us to right now we've started the segment. A lot of you like it. This one, well, I don't want to spoil it, but burgers, a British heatwave, and gay traffic signs dominate this week's installment of 3 headlines.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
All right, silliest headline number 3 involves Chuck's Burgers. This is Chuck Schumer. This is from the New York Post. It says, Chuck Schumer deletes Father's Day photo tweet in front of grill after critics slam his spatula skills. Nope. Here's the thing.
Skills.
It has nothing to do with his spatula skills. I want to be very, very clear. Let's bring up that image again. This is why people criticize him. And this is also why we try and distill our points on the show to the most effective argument. I heard people talking about how those burgers are frozen, they're not very good, or they're not seasoned. No. Here's the thing. That is a grill that very likely has never been used. I don't even know that all the burners are on. But the most important thing to keep in mind right here is those are clearly frozen burgers that have just been put on the grill, immediately doused in a slice of cheese.
Right.
He started a fire.
He just doesn't know it yet.
He put on his grill a charcoal fire starter.
Yes.
This man has never once grilled a day in his life.
You don't need to flip burgers, right?
No, you just keep it. You always cook it on one side, obviously, because you want one side to be kind of raw. Yeah. And also, I mean, the hot dogs; those are already cooked. You're cooking cooked meat.
Yeah, you're giving them a little bit of a sear.
You got to warm them up. Yeah, I get it.
But the burgers, he's like, look, I'm just like you. Toss frozen, put the cheese on right away.
Yeah.
He's never grilled. It's that it's completely disingenuous. It has nothing to do with his spatula skills. This isn't Iron Chef. This is just a guy who is lying. I met my daughter's sister's boyfriend's, what was it, her daughter's house, his niece's house?
No, he was at his daughter's wife's house.
Okay.
Scissor me timbers.
They bought a brand new Weber grill, which I believe has never been used. If you look at those grates, he had someone throw frozen burgers on there, tossed on some cheese, and then ordered Uber Eats.
Ooh. You think Uber Eats, or you think they made salads?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have a few blood bags there.
Brodigan just pointed out that 2 of the 3 burners appear to be off.
They don't look off.
Nobody would know.
I don't know if those are off.
Because that looks like, because you have the top. Usually the most left one is like the,
I'm not
turn
convinced.
it on, ignite.
Those look like they're on.
They look like they're on like medium high.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that he knows how to use the electronic starter.
It's an absolute prop.
It's a prop. It's the issue that the left is so out of touch.
I met his lesbian daughter fired it up for him.
Yes.
She's like, can you finish the burgers? He goes, right away.
He's like, yeah, I'm a man as well.
Right after that photo, she came in and yelled at him, took the spatula away, and told him to go back to the house.
And then beat her spouse. Statistically, very likely.
Very likely. Yep.
So, would you rather would you rather eat a burger from Chuck Schumer or go to a blood bag human party at Chuck Schumer's house? You answer below.
Ooh.
Here is
Either way, it's called a Chuck roast.
Yes. It's very tough. Not very tender.
Yeah.
Imagine Chuck Schumer making a chuck roast. That requires finesse. Chuck roast meat. It is not the best meat to work with. You have to know your way around, and he clearly doesn't.
Probably just puts a slice of cheese on it.
He puts a slice of cheese on it.
Slice of cheese on everything.
A meatloaf as he just grabs one of those logs of ground beef and go, huh? Good enough. Put some Gruyere. What? Okay. Second place. This is a great headline. This comes from the Mirror. This involves a British.
So stupid.
The British heat wave. In case you wondered if they were looking for a reason to fearmonger, here's the headline.
Oh, man.
UK weather. Exact date map turns dark red as 26 degrees Celsius heat wave sweeps across Britain. Just to let you know, 26 degrees Celsius is about 78. That's almost perfect humidor temperature.
Yes. And it was that temperature in 2 places on the entire island. Okay? That's what they were yelling about.
Find shelter, there's going to be 78 degrees with nary a humidity point to be found. Hide your wife and your children.
I don't understand.
You could fry an egg on the front of your car. What?
They're worried they might get a tan.
Yes.
It's like almost perfect inside weather.
Have your British branded SPF 95 ready.
Nobody told them to take their winter coats off.
No, exactly. Do not wear tweed. Oh, repeat, no tweed.
Whatever will we wear?
This is why Southern migrants are taking over your country.
Yes, exactly. Think about that.
Oh, I love it.
This is an excerpt from it. Says, this striking weather map turns a blistering red as temperatures look set to tip 26 degrees Celsius, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, in some parts of Britain next month. You only have a 1 month warning for 78 degrees.
Prepare yourself. Get a cooler.
Hide your wife. Hide your children, because the heat is raping everybody up in here.
Nice pull.
But the first place, our favorite headline here is, it relates to homophobic street signs. Now, I didn't understand this, and you won't either until I show you a clip. It says, city officials removed the last no U-turn signs meant to dissuade gay men from cruising in Silver Lake during the 90s. So I sat and I said, wait a second. What is it with gay men and U-turns? I don't understand. Gay men like U-turns? This was new to me.
No, they don't. There was a gay bar down the street, and so they put up no U-turn signs.
Let's let this gay man, who is clearly a former wrestler, tell the story. He's a city councilman about the U-turns.
It was no coincidence that these signs were put up after the LGBT community continued to grow more.
That's gay Mysterio.
In fact, they
instead of the 619, he just does the 69.
Probably put up was because there was an LGBT bar that was just literally down the street from the same area. It's good that we're finding the areas and the symbols within our own very city that continue to have these hateful remnants of the past.
So okay, so they would make U-turns. So the idea is there was a street they would cruise.
Not screw. It's a Freudian slip. Yes.
They would cruise. Put my window down and screw. So they would cruise and make U-turns.
Here's the thought. They can't, if we just tell them they can't turn around in this zone, we'll be protected.
Yes.
What, they have to go down to the next stoplight?
Because they can't wait to have sex with strangers. It's like, what? I can't U-turn. Give me somebody to blow while I'm waiting.
And they claim that the government has never tried to curb the AIDS epidemic.
I know.
We did everything.
That's clearly an attempt right there. They're like, we got to stop these gays from banging.
Just a little bit.
Come on. This wasn't an intersection hazard. It was a gay thing.
There was no way to do it. It's like, look, everybody, we have some new research. This is in the 80s. We have some new research, okay? We just need you to pause having engaging in unprotected sodomy with strangers and they're having sex right now. Guys, just wait a minute. I didn't even finish my phrase.
All my friends are dying. Stop having sex. I can't.
Okay, no more U-turns for you. What? What did I do?
The good news is they moved those signs down to the San Diego border. No U-turns. You're here now. Welcome.
Yeah. In 1966, I have the stat here. Red Guard members in China attempted to make red go and green stops during.
Not nice.
It'll be red for go and green for. Wait, hold on. Can you bring this up? It'll be red for go and green for stop on Peking streets if one group of the Red Guards, vanguard of China's new Cultural Revolution, gets its way.
Oh my gosh.
That was part of the Great Leap Forward, I guess. I forgot how that related to gay U-turns.
Is this why Asians are bad drivers?
That's why there are very few gay Asian men, I guess. Now you know. Think gay, think U-turns. As it relates to, the natural order of things. And here's the thing. These useless headlines, by the way, about traffic, this is not unique to the homosexual community. They go even further back.
That's right. Wait, how does that work? It doesn't. See? Read all about it. Read about it. You can find out how it doesn't work.
Go to CrowderShop.com. You can support the program in style and have some exercises ready if you have a fat Father's Day.
Well, don't worry about a fat. It'll come back. It'll be okay.
Father's Day gras.
No, you deserve to wear your size.
Yeah.
You get big, you deserve to look big
true.
in that size.
No, it's absolutely true.
It's shame.
Rule of thumb.
It pretty much is. By the way, we do have that Wagner clip where she was talking.
Oh
about
yes, here's her clips.
Yeah.
She's now, just to be clear, she's not describing Joe Biden when she says low expectations. She's describing President Trump. Yeah.
I do have to ask, though, I mean, this is all thrown into sharp relief when the two men are on stage debating, right? And it already feels like, the first presidential debate is set for June 27th. It already feels like the bar that is set for Biden to clear is so much substantially higher than the one Trump has to clear, which is literally, is he alive? Is he standing? Are the words coming out of his mouth? Setting aside what the words actually are. And I wonder if there's any way for Biden to overcome what seems like a structural disadvantage on, in the weeks leading up to what's going to be a pretty important inflection point.
We've seen enough of that cackling. Think of that. She actually thinks people are going to buy. People on MSNBC go, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, no. Biden obviously is articulate. He's going to show up. He's lucid. And Donald Trump is the one who's barely upright, needs handlers, and can't speak. You're right. The expectations are so low for Donald Trump. That's why they feel the need to try and jail him.
Yes.
That's why there's no live audience.
Yes.
And maybe they're chairs. I think they want him to sit. It's a 90-minute debate. I'm not sure if Biden can stand the entire time.
It is absolute projection.
It is. By the way, I would like to, whatever bet that I have right now that they're going to replace him by August, I would like to substantially increase it.
Really?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. I think he is out.
I don't know.
There's no way this guy makes it to, I just don't think there's any way that they let him do it.
If the election was held today, Donald Trump is president in a landslide. Despite Google, despite Meta, despite what's going on YouTube, despite all of the media smear campaigns that come directly from the DNC, if the election was to be held today, Donald Trump wins in a landslide. Keep that in mind. They want to steal that from you. And that rhetoric, I believe, is allowed on YouTube right now. Lying to you, trying to stack the deck in their favor. They are trying to steal this, trying to jail and silence a political. It's already enough. Think about the amount of time that was lost from President Donald Trump going through these sham trials where he could only campaign effectively 2 days out of the week. And, ironically, did more campaigning and rallies than former Vice President Joe Biden. Hey, let me ask you, who can stand upright on their own? Donald Trump is facing prison, potentially, has 2 days, and he's on the road meeting with voters more than former Vice President Joe Biden. They want you to believe that former Vice President Joe Biden has expectations that are set too high. They want you to believe that if Donald Trump is president, he will jail his political opponents. Hey, hold on a second. Donald Trump has said that he would pardon political opponents, and he already has. This is very important. There has not been a presidency in modern American history, I don't know if it's at all throughout all of American history, who has either prosecuted, charged, or jailed people of a different political persuasion than this administration. It's the first time it's happened in these numbers. That is terrifying. And we've never had a former or sitting president, I say sitting president with Donald Trump, be charged this way, put in jail. In the history of our republic, happens all the time in South America, happens all the time in banana republics. That happens. There is very little coming back from that. But they want you to believe that Donald Trump is frail, old, and incapable. Hey, you comment below if that's something that you even think anyone in the center will buy, which is also why Google is manipulating the search algorithms, because the undecided voter is overwhelmingly leaning toward Trump at this point, and demographics that are surprising. They want to steal that from you. Something else and by they, I mean those people in power, and by people in power, I largely mean people, of course, from the left, because they believe in centralized power. They know better than you how to spend your own money. They know better than you how to live your life, what kind of lifestyle you should live, where you should be able to live, what kind of transportation you should be able to take, what kind of education you should be allowed to take part in or send your children to. They believe that they know better than you, and so it makes sense that they would be in line with the WEF. It makes sense that they would be in line with globalism, and it makes sense that people who are strong conservatives would not, because the general difference between liberal or progressive, leftist, whatever you want to say, and conservative, right-wing, Republican, whatever you want to say in the United States is one group, my left, your right. The left believes that Washington, D.C. makes decisions for your lives better than you do. The right, my right, your left, believes that you, if left to make your own decisions, tend to make better decisions for yourself and your family. That is the primary difference, folks. Go through any issue. Taxes. We believe that you should be able to keep more of your own money. You'll probably spend it more wisely. The left, we should take the money because we will spend it in a way that is wise. Hey, cars. We believe that you should be able to purchase the car that you need for your family because we believe that you know what's most appropriate for you. The left, no. We have to mandate which kinds of cars you can and cannot buy. Education. Hey, you should have all the options available to you. School vouchers, charter schools. Homeschooling should be something that's encouraged because we believe that you and your local community probably know how to better educate your children than maybe the public sector teachers union. The left, absolutely not. No choice whatsoever. You live in a district, you go to this school, and there is no way to fire these teachers. Firearms. We believe that you should be able to protect your own household. We believe that if given the right, you will protect your household in a way that is more effective than a centralized police force. The left, absolutely not. If you have a problem, call the police, who also happen to be racist. That's the primary difference. One group, everyone here. We have plenty of disagreements, by the way. But the general principle is you can make better decisions for yourself than a centralized bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., or certainly the UN. The left, you don't know. We know better what's best for you. That is the primary difference.
I would take it a step further, not just that it's better for us to make our own decisions, but we have the right to.
Right.
Regardless of whether we're better at it.
Right.
We have the right to. They feel like we don't have the right to. Or we shouldn't have the right to.
I think some people make bad decisions, but I think in general, most of Washington, D.C. makes bad decisions. And so, you know what? I would take the chance with individual Americans making bad decisions for themselves, because guess what? Their bad decisions don't affect you as much as the centralized bad decisions that occur at the taxpayer expense. So they want to steal that decision from you. And they also, meaning those in power, want to steal this country from you. Why? Because they need to buy votes. So an issue right now that's the primary issue for voting Americans is immigration. But it's also a primary voting issue for people across the entire Western world, to be clear. Even though it's ruined cities from, New York City to Paris. If you believe that we need to have a guest book, if you believe that we need to have a border policy, if you believe that people need to come here through the legal channels, you've been called what? Cruel, a Nazi? Comment below. What names have you been called? Racist.
Racist.
I guess Hispanic Americans are particularly racist against other Hispanics because they support some kind of mass deportation at this point, or certainly building a wall. And then you have people like this French soccer player. I guess his name is Kylian. Is it Mbappe? Mbappe. I should know. He refers to himself.
He's okay.
Je veux jouer soccer. Je parle en français. Ça c'est bon.
Thanks for the French remix. I needed some help.
There are a few French people like, he said it and I got it.
I will subscribe now.
Even though that mug is far too large for the portions that we eat. I want a cup like this. Then I am full. So,
fat American.
So Mbappe told people not to vote for extremists. And we've already been through what qualifies someone to be considered an extremist from the left. He was referring to extremists like Marine Le Pen.
Je pense qu'on est une génération qui peut faire la différence. Aujourd'hui, on voit très bien que les extrêmes sont aux portes du pouvoir. Kylian Mbappé est contre les extrêmes, contre les idées qui divisent.
You spoke in the third person, by the way.
Dit, on a l'opportunité de choisir le futur de notre pays. Et c'est une tâche qu'il faut souligner. C'est très important. Partout, c'est pour ça que j'essaye de donner la voix pour vraiment parler à ces gens de ma génération. Parce que j'ai été dans cette caractéristique-là, étant plus jeune, de se dire ma voix, elle va pas changer. Si, la voix, elle va changer. Et l'importance et l'urgence de la situation fait qu'aujourd'hui, comme j'ai dit, j'ai envie d'être fier de porter ce maillot le 7. J'ai pas envie de représenter un pays qui correspond pas à mes valeurs, qui correspond pas à nos valeurs, parce que je pense et j'espère qu'on est tous dans le même cas.
For those people who were, who were listening on audio and didn't see the translation, he said, "I want to be proud. I want to be proud to wear this jersey, but I don't feel I can wear the jersey of a country that does not share my values." So, to continue the protest, actually, he decided to play shirtless.
Well, that's nice.
But kept the sponsor from Qatar Airlines.
So that's Qatar.
Aligns with his values, so that's good. You know, Qatar.
Nice.
Clock boy is the voice of a generation.
Oh, man. By the way,
the airline that did gynecology tests on like 20 chicks?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they weren't tests.
To be fair, it's only business class.
That's true. By the way, he's 25.
Yeah.
Like when he's saying, when I was younger, I didn't think my voice counted. I'm like, okay, you're 25. You're one of the highest paid soccer players in the world. You got offered about $1 billion to play in Saudi Arabia. Not kidding on the number, by the way. It was very close to $1 billion. He signed a deal where he got $175 million signing bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy is uber wealthy, and he should just basically be very happy that God blessed him with that and just go and play for his country.
Well, I am very happy to be playing. I'm happy for the money. Don't get me wrong. I'll take the money. I'm not crazy. But I think you should let in as many violent migrants as humanly possible.
I think it's a bad idea.
I have a penthouse. I'll be fine.
Maybe he should use all that money to help these migrants out.
You would think so.
Maybe put them up in one of his chateaus. Chateau de Mapa.
Or just take one of Nicolas Cage's seized chateaus. I don't know how many.
Oh, well.
I didn't realize there was property tax in France. So, the same day.
The Magna Carta.
Yes, the Magna Carta.
Maybe
Maybe there's a clue. Oh, you mean because that's all this film is about? Stop ruining my thunder! So, same day, the Biden administration announced a massive new amnesty program for hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. Okay, this comes from CBS, a program being developed by White House officials would offer work permits and deportation protections to unauthorized immigrants married to U.S. citizens as long as they have lived in the U.S. for at least 10 years.
What?
So this soccer player is wrong, Biden is wrong, and here's the thing. Facilitating mass migration is actually immoral. This is why I hate the term compassionate conservative. It's not a thing. There is nothing compassionate about allowing people to come into this country who cannot be vetted, sometimes are vetted, are known terrorists, and are allowed to come here anyway, at the cost of Americans who are paying taxes. It is immoral. It is evil to place Americans, particularly in border cities, in harm's way, and to force the American taxpayer, the hardworking American, to foot the bill for someone who has no business being here. I believe that is immoral. I don't believe it is compassion of any kind. You can comment below. I don't mean to sound cold. I understand that a lot of these people come from shithole countries, and liberals will be more offended that I have used the term shithole countries, but I stand by it. Let's go through a few key facts here. Today we want to focus on crime because we've given you the stats that illegal immigrants or illegal immigration as a whole costs Americans $150 to over $400 billion per year. And the cost to build a wall would be about $10 to $25 billion. I've given you those statistics. You know about them abusing emergency room services. You know about them being a serious strain on our healthcare system. But let's just talk about crime today, because you will hear from the left that actually immigrants here are far less likely to commit crimes than native-born American citizens. It's not true. It's never been true. They're using statistics that include, by the way, legal immigrants. So they're using statistics that would include, for example, Cuban Americans who have claimed asylum who are on the books, Swedish Americans who have come here, German Americans, people who have come here on work visas. Of course, those people would be more likely to follow the law, because if they don't, they're more likely to face ramifications as legal immigrants. They do not reflect the behavioral patterns, the criminal patterns of illegal immigrants. And I will offer you this full disclosure. We don't really have those stats. We have to make some inferences. Why? Because it's very hard to get illegal immigrants to answer the census. So
they're trying, though.
Yes, they want to. So under former Vice President Biden, there have been 151 homicides or manslaughter incidents that were at the hands of illegal immigrants. Okay. Now that doesn't sound super high, 151. Under Donald Trump, it was 11.
Now that's a big difference.
It's a big difference. And the importance here is you hear the left say this all the time, where they want to confiscate your guns or they want to remove your ability to purchase firearms with, a basic magazine capacity. They say, if it saves one life. Okay, well, the strongest argument against that is far more lives are saved by firearms in this country every single year. It's not even close. It's 500,000 to over 3 million, according to the CDC, the DOJ, the FBI, compared to in the tens of thousands, in the teens, actually, anywhere from 10 to 20,000 homicides with firearms each year at most. So if it saves one life, okay, it saves more lives for people to own firearms. What about this right here? If it saves one life, in this case, at least 151 lives, just doing what it is that every country needs to be doing anyway, which is ensuring that you protect your citizens, namely with a border. If it saves one life.
Yeah, what's the minimum? What's the minimum for these people?
Right.
Like in the military, when you do an op order, when you present your mission to everybody, one of the things you take into account is how many acceptable casualty rate.
Right.
At this many casualties, it's unacceptable casualty rate. We're failure. We have to get out.
Right.
What's the number for these people? How many people? I want to know. I want to hear it from their mouths. How many people have to die before you go, oh, that's too many?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's one.
Right. For me, it's, what's really, really tough? A tough pill to swallow. I'm going to give you some very specific examples. If you're the parent of one of those 151.
Yeah.
If you're the parent of someone who was murdered by somebody who had no business being here anyway, and that is fully under the legitimate purview of government. It is a harder pill to swallow than a random act of violence. If your son or daughter or father or mother or sister or even friend is killed by someone who is part of a statistical pool, the reality is part of a statistical group that is more likely to commit violent crime and through cost-effective measures could be prevented from entering this country illegally. It's a really tough pill to swallow, like Rachel Morin. Morin was raped, murdered on a hike near Baltimore, Maryland. On Saturday, her killer, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, was arrested in Oklahoma. Also, by the way, strong correlation between many middle names and murder. Hernandez illegally migrated from El Salvador, where he was wanted for murder. In El Salvador, which means it must be pretty bad.
Yeah, it's probably not just one.
Yeah, no, it's the one that they caught. They give you a grace murder.
I was told they weren't sending the rapists and murderers here.
I was told that as well, but it's wordplay. They're not necessarily sending them. They just find their way here.
They just let them out.
This man was also linked to a home invasion in Los Angeles where a 9-year-old girl was assaulted. So that's just one example of the 151. Hey, you remember Laken Riley? Laken Riley was murdered by Jose Antonio Ibarra while jogging, University of Georgia campus. And that man was an illegal immigrant from Venezuela who was paroled into the United States. And it was one of those stories that caught fire, again, because it is a very tough pill to swallow when they are murdered by someone who has no business being here and someone who should have been on the radar for their history of violent crime. So a lot of people were upset about this, but former Vice President Biden couldn't be bothered to even remember her name.
We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
I'm sorry, that's the right, important, but not proper clip for this context. Here it is.
Not really.
They booed her for saying that.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal.
And then he had to apologize.
Do you
remember that? Not just for mispronouncing and fine. Biden's totally all there. The USC head football coach versus, an immigrant, that killed somebody and her name was that, right? But then he had to apologize for saying illegal.
Yes.
That's what they focused on afterwards. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say illegal.
They cannot, the current Democrat Party and the leftist movement, they cannot possibly, please hear me, they cannot possibly be looking out for you. They are precluded from it. This is an issue where there is no conflict with the American people. The vast majority of American people want at least some form of border security. More than 50% want a wall. More than 50% believe in deportation. This includes, by the way, black Americans, Hispanic Americans, close to 38, I believe it's 38% of Democrats at this point. Yep. Most Americans want it. It would save us hundreds of billions of dollars, and it would prevent the loss of at least several hundred lives. There is no reason not to have some type of immigration reform, except for the fact that the left is beholden to purchasing votes at your expense. Let's be clear about that. They can't. They couldn't be looking out for you. Even if you're a feminist who can't even count on both hands the amount of abortions that you have had living in a blue district in the United States, they can't be looking out for you because they can't keep you safe. They are willing to risk your safety, let alone your finances, to fund their purchasing of votes. When people talk about the elites and people talk about the swamp, we are talking about people who have a vested interest in your misfortune so that they can gain. That's where we are. Here's another example. I believe it's Catherine, is it Steinle or Steinle? I want to make sure I have this correct because I've read it and it's not one that you've heard pronounced because I haven't talked about it a whole lot in the media. This person was killed in 2015 when Jose Inez Garcia Zarate accidentally, again, a lot of middle names, fired a gun at a San Francisco pier. And this man, Garcia Zarate, had already been deported 5 times. So at the very least, too, the system is inefficient. In other words, if the left is saying, well, we can't be cruel. Okay, if this man has been deported 5 times, you have a system that doesn't work. They say, you think a wall will work? Not just a wall, but it's a start.
Also, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Also, maybe.
I think it's worth the $12 billion.
Right. It's like,
give it a shot.
We know this doesn't work. Beyond any shot, we know it doesn't work. Yeah. Let's maybe try something that's way cheaper and seems to work. Why do I think it works? Walls have worked throughout all of human history. They've helped. They've been used for a reason. Deported 5 times. Was acquitted of murder and manslaughter by a San Francisco jury. This is where we are. If we don't stop this at this point, we're not just talking about costs. America is doomed.
They just might kill us all if we don't send however many million back. We gotta build that wall. Another couple decades and the nation's trashed. And Trump's the only one with balls to tell him go back home.
And we're sending them the hell back. They're not sending their finest, that I can tell you. You come up thousands of miles coming through Mexico, and we're going to stop it.
And let me rattle through these next few statistics. All references available at Louder with Crowder. Link in the description, as we do every day because we have Dr. Epstein coming on here soon. The crimes don't just stop at murder, okay? A lot of people, they like to virtue signal and talk about how America is guilty of the sin of slavery, which of course is true, but we also are uniquely responsible for ending it and fighting one of the bloodiest civil wars in history because people since the founding of this country believed that it would be a problem that could not be reconciled with the Constitution. But right now there are more slaves than ever in recorded human history, over 40 million slaves. And a lot of them are sex slaves. So key fact number 2, this illegal immigration policy, it actually encourages human trafficking. Cartels, they earn about $1 billion a month in human trafficking.
Wow.
We have a record number of, again, slaves on Earth. Last time I checked, it was about 42 million, but I have some stats today that say about 49 million people on Earth are slaves. 25% of them are children. Let's juxtapose that with about 450,000 unaccompanied minors have come in under Biden. Wow. And the estimates, again, the references are available, somewhere around 60% are caught by the cartels who make $1 billion, right? We just talked about that, make $1 billion a month in human trafficking. 60% of 450,000 people are caught by cartels and used in sex trafficking, either pornography or acting as mules for drug trafficking. Think of that.
They would literally cut them open and put them in their legs and their arms and their chest cavities.
Let's start with that. Well, let's end with that. And let's start with not allowing them to traffic people across the border. By the way, it also encourages messy street traffic.
No move! Cúmate! No! Compas. Suelte la pistola. Tírela. ¿Ah? Pregunta, paisanos. ¿Quieren morir?
What are we doing?
It's a tough traffic report to take.
Really is.
Also,
that was the line for In-N-Out.
Yes. Let's go to terrorism, by the way. Terrorism, they use the open border to pour in under Biden. The total number of terrorists who were apprehended going through the border under Donald Trump, 11. Under Biden, it's 362.
It just keeps growing.
Key fact number 3. All politicians want to talk about fentanyl and drug trafficking, but they don't really want to talk about, or certainly the left, the rate-limiting factor of this problem. So in 2023, the CBP sees 1.1 billion doses of fentanyl, and then the overdose number was over 112,000 in a 12-month period for the first time ever. And as we know, these mind-destroying and lethal drugs that exist, like fentanyl, they come over the border. Hey, you want to say that it's a biological weapon engineered from China? That wouldn't necessarily be accurate. I don't know that the Chinese engineered fentanyl, but if you want to talk about them having an incentive to drive American fentanyl deaths or certainly addiction through that would be true. But guess what? Can't do it if we have some kind of border security. And not just the border, but also an immigration process that monitors this. The left can't. They cannot be looking out for you. It is not humanly possible. Can anyone tell me, genuinely, right here, can anyone tell me the net negative of having a wall, the net negative of having mass deportation, certainly of criminals here, people who've committed crimes, violent crimes of any kind? Can anyone tell me the net negative of having some kind of immigration reform in this country? It's certainly not that it's not cost effective. It would cost us far less. What we have right now is broken. It is not working. We have people who are being trafficked to a number that we haven't seen in the United States, even though human trafficking occurs at a rate that it's at an all-time high across the globe. I don't want that to happen here in the States. It is more dangerous to not have reform. It is more expensive. And Americans want reform. Anyone, comment below. The net negative of a wall and immigration policy. I'll wait.
What about this argument? I hear this argument made by the left a lot, that our agricultural, economy would be severely affected. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a relatively racist argument that they make.
That's what I think too.
You're not going to find anyone other than Mexicans to work any type of manual labor outside. I don't know about that. I don't know if you've seen the pictures from when they built the Empire State Building, like in 10 months. They were eating their lunch on beams 50 stories up. I think you find plenty of Americans if you pay a fair wage. And by the way, it exists in a vacuum when they make that argument because people are incentivized to hire illegal immigrants. Why? Because they work off the books. They don't have to pay them as much. And so it drives the wages down and Americans can't work those jobs. You solve that problem, then you can have an honest negotiation, an honest setting of a wage for the task performed without needing giant public sector trade unions.
Yeah, and a lot of these folks use visas to do that job anyway.
I was about
so
to
they can
say,
legally do it.
You could fix the job. You could fix the problem. No, it would be very, very easy and save hundreds of billions of dollars annually. The wall costs you that much money once. Maybe there's some upkeep, but it's not the full price.
Right. Also, by the way, in case you think that this makes you, if you're going to say the net negative is racism, you're a silly person. But you are also, ironically, being racist because you're implying that the entire nation of Japan is racist. Let me give you some of their numbers.
Well, they might be.
2023, they definitely are. In Japan, they had 13,800 asylum-seeking applications. They granted 303. And I'm willing to bet nary a Chinese man amongst them.
They got that number's like they got Japanese dudes just sitting in an office just going over the numbers.
Like, no.
Nope.
Not to make enough money or contribute. Also, your skin is too dark.
What are you saying?
Oh, you're from China. No. Subhuman. You don't believe in racism? You don't believe that prejudice can exist when people look relatively
and sound
similar.
Close too.
Sound close. Just look at how much the Japanese and Chinese people despise each other, both historically and today. And in the midst of all this, you have big 3-letter agencies like the IRS rather than worrying about what affects you, worrying about what destroys the fabric of this country and looking out for you, they're actually worried about you and going after you.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? Tax Network USA is here to help. They've helped thousands of Americans settle disputes with the IRS, and they can help you. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to these testimonials.
I was at rock bottom, barely making rent on my studio apartment, just watching all my money go straight to the IRS.
I felt like the government drove in and took all my hard-earned dollars.
Felt like I was drowning in back taxes. Every time I tried to break the surface, the IRS would just pull me right back under.
Billy was in debt up to his neck.
What? Who said that?
But then I saw an ad for Tax Network USA.
I called Tax Network USA.
Tax Network USA pulled me right from out under the waves.
Don't be a Billy.
What? Who said that? What's wrong with being a Billy?
Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Contact Tax Network USA for immediate relief and expert guidance. Call 1-800-245-6000 or visit tnusa.com/Crowder. That's tnusa.com/Crowder.
I don't have a computer.
Damn it, Billy!
Think about that for a second. We have very, very few sponsorships on this show. We're very choosy.
Particular.
Some people would say divas.
Persnickety.
But the IRS is so corrosive and so pervasive, and by the way, so tenacious, persistent in attacking you that we have chosen as our sponsor, Tax Network USA, because you need a service to protect yourself from your own government, who just added over 70,000 new employees. Now, go to tnusa.com/crowd.
I call them burglars. 70,000 new burglars.
Burglars.
Burgling my bank accounts.
It's rather hot outside. I'm afraid you're being burgled. I can't stand the 76-degree balminess.
Oh gosh, I want to hear it.
It's very Beatles-ish.
It
is, yeah. And I hate the Beatles as well as that comment.
That's because you're an uncultured rube.
No, they're fine, but they suck.
Gerald's a rube.
Gerald's a rube. Hey, rube. Don't make a sound.
That song's about you, Gerald.
Yoko was my best friend. She broke that group
All you
up
need
good.
is shut up. So, by this point, I appreciate him being patient, Dr. Robert Epstein. We're going to have him here in just a moment. It's no secret. We've talked about this, but it's getting worse. You know that Google is trying to rig this game in favor of Democrats by censoring, shadow banning, throttling, deplatforming, and manipulating algorithms going into an election. But believe your lying eyes and ears.
Meanwhile, the Republican National Committee is suing Google over its spam email filters. It accuses Google of suppressing Republican emails ahead of the election. But Google denies that. Specifically, the RNC says Gmail is discriminating against the political group by sending fundraising or get out the vote emails to junk folders.
YouTube extending its suspension of former President Trump's account now indefinitely.
So then we did announce the monetization change that Steven Crowder his monetization.
So was that in reaction?
The design docs were not just for nothing. They were sort of the preliminary signal that Google was going to make this hard left shift, which they then started to complete in 2017.
Now, of course, this would be in line with the fact that 98% of Silicon Valley donations go to Democrats. Now, keep in mind, you couldn't find that kind of a monolith in San Francisco. In San Francisco, if you were to take 1,000 people at random and look at their political donations, you would not see 98% go to Democrats. Or in New York City, Chicago, take your pick. Nowhere else but perhaps Hollywood and Silicon Valley. And depending on the election year, maybe Wall Street. That is not natural. That is by design, to be clear. That is manipulated. And a new study, and Dr. Robert Epstein is going to be here to talk about it, shows exactly how Google can rig and change in a way that is quantifiable the results of an actual election. So we are going to have on this program, I believe that he is there on the line. I appreciate his patience. Senior research psychologist at the American Institute of Behavioral Research and Technology. That's a mouthful. You can go to his website, drrobertepstein.com, to read more and illuminate this study for us. Dr. Robert Epstein. Dr. Epstein, I appreciate you being with us, sir.
It's my pleasure. I was on before with Gerald, whom I hear in the background.
Yes, and I'm sure that you would prefer to be on with him, but today you're stuck with me. So I appreciate you humoring us, and I want to make sure that first I got those plugs right. It's drrobertepstein.com, and that's where people can see the results of this new study, correct?
No, absolutely not. But they can go to mygoogleresearch.com. That's one place to go.
Okay.
And the other place to go, which is very exciting for us because we spent almost $7 million developing this over a period of 8 years, and we implemented it last year, and I introduced it to Congress in my testimony last December. Go to americasdigitalshield.com. That's Americas with an S, digitalshield.com. And that is a dashboard, a real-time dashboard showing you the millions and millions of pieces of data that we're collecting 24 hours a day now through the computers of a politically balanced group of more than 15,000 registered voters in all 50 states. We are actually collecting the content that big tech companies, Google especially, are sending to real registered voters, and we're doing this in real time, and we are analyzing the data as the data come in, and we are catching them red-handed. We are actually calculating the political bias in the content that they are sending to real registered voters around the country. And I'm working with AGs, members of Congress, election integrity groups, and others to make sure these data, which have never, ever been collected before, these data are going to stop these companies. They're going to push these companies out of our elections, and our data right this second are showing a number of manipulations that they're using right now. That's number one. I can tell you about that stuff. But number two, they're actually showing that since we implemented this in November of last year, so it's been 6 months, Google has been gradually reducing the liberal bias in its search results. Mm-hmm. So if you look at americasdigitalshield.com, you'll actually see a graph showing you this gradual change in Google search.
Right. And the thing is, you just mentioned a few sites, so now we're not going to see your face. It's just going to be lower thirds. But I want people, they can go and see these results, obviously, in real time. But there have been some trends. I use the term results, but trends that you have noted and you've discussed and we've seen and we've been looking at this morning. Explain to people this fact that's just jumped out of the page to me, that Google could take votes or could take elections, for example, or polling data that would be a 50-50 split and flip that to a 90-10. Can you explain to people who don't work in tech or data analytics how that happens, what has been done to affect this kind of massive change?
Sure. This is one of our basic research projects. That project you're mentioning is called Search Suggestion Effect, or SSE. We just had a paper accepted into one of the top peer-reviewed journals in the world, which is all about our study on SSE. And this is really scary and surprising stuff. Quick background, in 2016, there was a little news service, now pretty much defunct, which released a 7-minute video showing that you could not get negative search suggestions on Google for Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Bing or Yahoo, you got Hillary Clinton is the devil, Hillary Clinton is evil, Hillary Clinton is sick, and so on. You got the stuff people were actually searching for.
Right.
But on Google, all you could get that summer was Hillary Clinton is awesome and Hillary Clinton is winning, which no one was searching for.
Right.
So yes, actually, we looked that up on Google Trends. No one was searching for those things, but that's all Google would suggest. So I got curious, and that started a research project on search suggestions, and that led to this discovery, which is about to be published, as I said, now in a peer-reviewed journal. And this is what we found by doing randomized controlled experiments, very rigorous experiments scientifically. We found that people are more likely, sometimes 10 to 20 times more likely, to click on negative search suggestions. Anything that contains a negative term like suicide or evil. We're attracted to things like that. This is called negativity bias in the social sciences. It's also called the cockroach in the salad phenomenon, because if there's a cockroach in your salad, all of your attention is drawn to it and it ruins the whole salad.
Or a Kardashian.
Positive things, right. Positive things don't work that way. So if you have a plate of sewage and you put a piece of candy in the middle, it does not make the sewage okay. Negative things draw attention. So we figured out that Google was suppressing negative search suggestions for Hillary Clinton, but not for other people, because what that leads to is that when there's a negative, let's say for Donald Trump, and they're flashing negative suggestions at you. Of course. And at the time they were doing that that most people click on those negative suggestions. That takes you to a website which gives you negative information about that candidate. So one of the simplest ways to promote your candidate is to suppress negative search suggestions. And what we discovered in our experiments is that by doing that, we could turn a 50-50 split among undecided voters into a 90-10 split with no one having the slightest idea they have been manipulated. Right. This is the kind of manipulation that they use. We've, over the years, discovered and quantified 10 manipulations like this, which together in this year's presidential election allow Google to shift between 6.4 and 25.5 million votes in the presidential election. That's just Google.
Right. And it's not accounted for when people look at electoral spending. Right. People, imagine how much you would pay for that kind of an advantage. Yeah. I maintain what I said earlier. I'm amazed that in this atmosphere right now that any conservatives or Republicans win ever at all. And if there happened to be an even playing field, I don't think that leftists could ever win again, because the fact that it's even within striking distance with this going on, and we have experienced this quite a bit, anecdotally, not only on the YouTube channel being demonetized and seeing a difference of, several hundred percentage points consistently that we've tracked. We've also seen it, for example, with Alexa, where it was very positive. To give a very specific example, all positive on Muhammad. Well, if you just ask, who is Muhammad? And all negative on Jesus Christ. And when we published this video, it was kind of a goof over Thanksgiving weekend. By Monday, they had changed it back. But that doesn't change the millions, potentially, of people who are being given misinformation before they were caught. And that's the great misdeed that's committed here. It requires someone like you to catch them, which brings me to another question. What made you want to start performing these studies and start digging into this in the first place?
Because on January 1st, 2012, I got 9 emails when I was on your show. Before I had forgotten the exact number. Now I know it was 9 emails from Google saying that my website had been hacked and they were blocking access. I've been a programmer my whole life, and I just got very curious about Google all of a sudden, because I said, well, first of all, who made them the sheriff of the internet? I mean, why am I not hearing from some government agency or some nonprofit organization? Why Google? They're the sheriff?
Yes.
And the other thing that really, really intrigued me as a programmer was they were blocking access not just through Google search, which I get, that's Google, but they were blocking access somehow or other through Safari, which is part of Apple. They were blocking access through Firefox, which is part of a nonprofit organization called Mozilla. And I thought, wait a minute, that's crazy. How are they doing that? And I started looking at Google with a serious critical eye. And by the end of that year, I was planning to start doing actual controlled experiments to see what the heck they were all about and why they were suppressing what they were suppressing and why they were boosting what they were boosting. And we began to do controlled experiments. The very first experiment we ever ran used biased search results favoring one candidate or another. And I thought in that first experiment that we could probably shift voting preferences by 2 or 3%, which doesn't sound like much, but in a very close election, that could flip the election. In that first experiment, though, we got a shift of 43%, which I thought, was an error, obviously. So we repeated it. And by the way, this is not with college sophomores. This is with a representative sample of U.S. voters.
Mm-hmm.
In the second experiment, we got a shift of 66%. And I thought, what's going on here? We might be onto something.
Yes.
And that led to our first national study, and it just went on and on and on. And it gets scarier every single year.
Can I ask you a question? Because obviously you have a lot of data here at your fingertips, and you mentioned Hillary Clinton as an example, right? And that's one that's obviously a national example people would be familiar with. I'm sure you probably have done some digging into more localized or maybe lesser known political conflicts right now, or races. How often do you see the bias line up the other way, where it favors conservatives? How often do you see that from Google?
Never. But the amazing thing is that we have a couple of times now gotten them to back down, so at least it goes close to zero. And that, I think, is what we really need. If you want to level out this playing field, to use your term, that's what we have to do. We have to push them to zero bias.
Yeah.
By the way, I lean left politically myself.
I know.
So, go for it, Google.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I say to myself, wait a minute, this is a democracy.
Right.
It's not supposed to be controlled by a private company, which is not accountable to the public. So that's why we started building monitoring systems 8 years ago. It's very, very, very difficult to do, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
But we finally perfected the technique and last year we built the world's first nationwide monitoring system. And the logic here is that this finally, and for the first time, will make Google and other tech companies accountable to the public, because we're actually capturing and preserving on a massive scale nationwide the content that they're actually using to manipulate kids, manipulate elections, manipulate all of us.
Right.
But we're capturing it, and that's never been done before.
I'm very grateful to hear that. And I have two questions.
So,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I was just going to interrupt you again, just to.
It doesn't matter. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all right.
No one cares if you're. Please go. You're I was going to ask about the multiple platforms
effect. You can just kick me off the show.
I won't because
multiple platforms effect. Okay. Now how do you even know about that? Because that's brand new.
Well, we're nerds here.
But anyway, I'll tell you.
I'm a court jester, but we do our research. So, it's very interesting because we've experienced this, right? We've experienced this as being the biggest. I don't say this to toot my own horn. The biggest conservative channel that's ever existed on YouTube had the lights turned off as far as organic reach, and of course, that also we saw that same effect on Google, not just YouTube. And there are also third-party servers through YouTube players. Basically, if you're seeing videos, it's basically part of the same service, and you may not know the bias that you're seeing. So we're familiar with it kind of behind the scenes, but this term is something that a lot of people out there think, oh, it's just YouTube, I don't watch YouTubers. So the multiple platform effect, explain that to people who don't know.
No. Well, this is one of the scariest things we've discovered so far, and we just finished a few days ago. In fact, last Wednesday, we just finished months of research on this, the 10th effect that we've discovered so far over the past 11 years. It's called MPE, Multiple Platforms Effect. And what this research shows and what it quantifies, what it measures, is what happens if people are exposed not just to biased content on one platform, let's say Google search, but maybe similarly biased content, let's say on YouTube or on Facebook or on even Alexa, which is answering people's questions, and by the way, is politically biased.
Of course.
So what happens if they're exposed to similarly biased content on multiple platforms? And what we have found is that the effect is additive, meaning if they're exposed to that bias on one platform, in fact, this is our most recent research, we're going to see a shift of 40% or so, like we have in the past. But if we then expose people to a second platform, even though the content is different, but if the bias is the same or similar, now we go up to 50% shift. And a third platform, we go up to a 60% shift. By the way, these numbers are so big. That means you're literally taking 60% of the people who are undecided and you're moving them. You're shifting them in whatever direction you choose.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I say whatever direction we choose, I mean that because we're randomly assigning people to one group or another. So it's whatever direction we choose. That's how powerful these effects are.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to go back a little bit because you mentioned that RNC lawsuit against Google when Google was supposedly shifting tens of millions of emails from the RNC to its constituency into people's spam boxes so that the vast majority of people would never see those emails. RNC ran to court and the case got thrown out. Why? Because like you, and given the examples you've given me so far, they just had anecdotal data.
Sure.
Now that's what we've done is change that. We have changed that. We no longer have just anecdotal data. We have massive amount of data coming in from all 50 states. We so far have court admissible data in 16 states. If we can get that number way up in the next couple of months, we will push Google out of the election and take back the free and fair election, which is a critical cornerstone of democracy.
Right.
And that's why, to answer your question, that's why I'm doing this work, because even though I lean left, I love this country and I love our system of government. As flawed as it is, there's nothing better than it in the world, nothing. And I want this to take this back for the people. This should not be government by Google. This should be government by the people.
Right. Let me ask you something, though, Dr. Epstein, and I don't say this at all to be adversarial, but as someone who leans left and someone who is now, you have access to data that people could only dream of, right? And you see this consistent pattern. And as you've noted, you don't see the bias go any other way with conservatives. You lean left, but this obviously is disturbing to you. You mentioned the multiple platform effect. Why do you think it is that the people with whom you would maybe align more politically invariably try to silence all oppositions? And that is not the same problem that you see on the right. You know, if you're talking about, for example, anecdotally, a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, search results, Twitter, all happened in one day where we were deplatformed and then we got back, we were demonetized. It's happened with many people. This isn't a coincidence. Why, as someone who leans left, do you think it is the left that exclusively is doing this and trying to silence political opposition?
Because they can, because we have never put in place any kind of regulations or laws that limit them, that stop them from doing these things. So now put yourself in their shoes. If you had that kind of power, which they do, they absolutely have that power. No one has ever tried to stop them before. The monitoring system that we've set up is the first in the world. And believe me, they've tried to stop us. I mean, we have to take all kinds of precautions to try to protect ourselves and our data.
Sure.
But the fact is, if you were in their shoes, you know, you're a person of conviction. You're a person of conviction. You have very strong values and political beliefs. If you had that power, wouldn't you be tempted to use that power to shift votes and opinions and attitudes and beliefs? That's what they're doing. They're using the power because they can, because no one is stopping them. No laws, no regulations. You can't even sue them under the law called CDA 230. I mean, they're protected from lawsuits. They can do anything they want. Now, one of the leaks from Google is an 8-minute video with a strange title, The Selfish Ledger. If you look up The Selfish Ledger online, in fact, if you then type my name in, you might get my annotated transcript to this 8-minute film. This video was made by Google's Advanced Products Division, and in it, they explain that Google has the power to re-engineer humanity according to, and I am not kidding because it's right in the video, according to Google's values.
Right.
Google's values. They have the power. They're using the power.
Yeah.
I know how to stop them.
I do know that that you do have a lot of tools at your disposal to stop them. In answering your question, I wouldn't. I understand that many people on the right would, but it kind of becomes a self-defeating prophecy because the inherent conservative worldview is that we believe that individuals should make decisions more for themselves. We don't believe that centralized power is a healthy thing, whereas that is a tenet of the progressive left, right? That is a tenet of, okay, we understand that centralized power is actually better because they know how to more effectively organize people's lives. So it really could never happen because you can't get conservatives to get in a room and agree on anything. And you know what? I will say we had, we have the biggest channel on YouTube, and we're the ones who do unedited Change My Mind, where anyone can come on and have discussion. The approach, if you look at it, I would argue, from the right has been equal footing, level playing field, and the approach from the left has always been, at least in modern American history, certainly with big tech, silence opposition. And I do think it's a stark contrast. And I don't think, by the way, that that's all liberals. I think it's effectively a religious oligarchy, only you replace religious with big tech oligarchy right now. And they want to recreate humanity in the image, like you said, that they believe to be fit. I have a couple of questions from some members of chat, if you could entertain them for a second. And this one was interesting to me. This comes to me from CM Fuller. He said, how much more difficult would it be to manipulate, for example, a race that is further spread in points, as opposed to being close 50-50, but one that might be definitively, let's say, in a red district? What would the data tell us on that?
That's an excellent question, and I can answer it very precisely. Any election at all in which, let's say, the Republican has a projected win margin of 4% or less, that election is decided by Google. Google has absolute 100% control over outcomes in which the win margin, the spread, is 4% or less. That's Google. Google decides who wins that. Wow. Do they take an interest in every single election? Probably not. No. But they do take an interest, obviously, in any of the congressional elections for sure, and then any national election. So now, what happens over 4% if there's more than a 4% spread? Well, that it just gets harder for them, but they can still pull it off. But it just gets harder for them. So what the bottom line is, they can shift in any election, large or small, between 20 and 80% of undecided voters without those voters having the slightest idea that they've been manipulated. So you just do the math in any given election. It's easy to figure out pretty much, what percentage of voters at any point in time are undecided. And a lot of surveys are done showing projected win margins. And we actually have tables that we've published where you can actually look up some of the numbers, and you can tell whether Google can flip that election or control the outcome or not. And by the way, Google has the same numbers. Google knows where they can control and where, in some cases, they can't. Now, remember, they can't really affect the people at the extremes very, very much.
Of course,
they can try to mobilize their base to get more people, on the left to vote. They can try to discourage some Republicans from voting at all. And by the way, you're seeing a lot of that happening right now because, you think it's just maybe Trump and some nutcases who are discrediting the American election process, and maybe that's going to discourage some Republicans from voting. All that messaging, right, that's discouraging people on the right from voting, it's all coming from big tech. It's big tech that's spreading those messages, because any message at all that goes viral, that goes viral because the tech companies are allowing it or making it go viral. Any kind of messaging, all the messaging about getting upset about ballot harvesting and ballot stuffing and all that stuff, that's all being spread by Google and the gang, because they want you looking at those somewhat silly manipulations. I say somewhat silly. They're not silly, but they are inherently competitive. Both sides do those things, right? And Google wants you looking at those things so you don't look at them.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't say silly, because obviously it's a crime against a constitutional republic, but it pales in comparison. For example, we talked about on this program the Dominion voting machines paling in comparison to just what big tech has done. Now, that is absolutely. In other words, if it makes someone nutty to believe that the election is rigged through interference or through bias, well, then I guess we're both nutty, because this is exactly what we're talking about right here. This is not an honest and fair election when the most powerful companies that have ever existed on Earth are interfering against the will in some instances, certainly as we see right now. If the election was held today, Donald Trump is president, you know it, I know it, everyone on MSNBC, CNN knows it. They don't want that to happen. It's pull out all the stops. That's interference, in my opinion.
If people go to americasdigitalshield.com, and you scroll down, you'll actually see a list of some of the many elections that Google has rigged. And we know this beyond the shadow of any doubt. We know how to factor Google out of an election and see what the results would have been. Mm-hmm. And one of the elections that we list is the 2020 presidential election, because in that election, Trump won only 5 out of the 13 swing states, which is why he lost in the Electoral College. When we factor Google out in 2020, Trump would have won 11 of the 13 swing states and easily won in the Electoral College. Moreover, we calculated that Google shifted at least 6 million votes to Joe Biden, whom I supported, by the way, although I regret that. But the point is, Google shifted at least 6 million votes to Joe Biden. And think about that. By how many votes did Joe Biden win the popular vote? Well, I think it was around 7 million or so. If you factor Google out of that election, the popular vote itself would have been virtually tied.
Right.
That's how powerful Google and to a lesser extent the other tech companies are.
Yeah.
And people are just unaware. They're getting distracted by stuff which is much smaller scale, inherently competitive, has little net effect, and that's what the tech companies are making us do. They're making us look over here.
Yes.
There's nothing over here where we are. Look over here.
Yes, I think it's multifaceted, but the single biggest contributing factor for sure is this. I mean, to give you an example, we've talked about this. Biggest election stream that's ever taken place on YouTube or any platform, 2020, we were removed by the midterms. They guaranteed it couldn't happen again. And from 17 million, and then it was the biggest stream off of YouTube, and we fully anticipate that to happen. And actually, we'll probably be in touch because we have some boots on the ground and some access to data that we are building up in real time during election night, so we will be able to call states. A lot of people don't realize they basically get it from one news wire, if you go by Fox News, CNN, a couple of mainstream outlets, so that this can be tracked in real time. Yes, I highly encourage people to go and check out this data. Where's the best place for people to go? Is it this America's Digital Shield? American Digital Shield?
Well, if you want to see the system, this monitoring, in action, go to americasdigitalshield.com. And if you want to sponsor one of our field agents, unfortunately, we can't take volunteers, because if we took volunteers, which we've tried to in the past, Google sends us people, and then we get invalid data.
Yes.
So So if you want to sponsor one of our field agents, we call them, go to America's Digital Shield, just click on the sponsorships, $25 a month. That's all we pay these people. And these are real patriots. And by the way, they're politically balanced. They have to be politically balanced, so we have court admissible data. Or if you just want to check out the whole thing, the research, the monitoring, go to mygoogleresearch.com. And by the way, we could easily get shut down. I just want to warn everyone.
Oh, I know.
We're doing what Justice Brandeis recommended 100 years ago. He said sunlight is the best disinfectant. That's what we are. We're the sunlight. We're shining the light on these companies. We're building this enormous archive of incriminating data. But we could easily get shut down, and either from lack of funds or just electronic attacks.
Of course.
So we need people. We need people's help on this. We desperately need people's help. MyGoogleResearch.com, AmericasDigitalShield.com. And look at that. I urge everyone to please look at that, because you'll see the bias. That's data updated every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day. And that's data coming from more than 15,000 registered voters in all 50 states, 24 hours a day. Google cannot identify these people. It's a very, very sophisticated tech system. And no laws or regulations are there to stop them. And even if someone did, through some miracle, pass a law, they would just ignore the law. That's what they've done in Europe. Laws and regulations can easily be ignored. And by the way, without a monitoring system in place, you don't even know if there's any compliance. You have to have monitoring. That's the key.
Right.
To see what they're doing and to make them accountable.
Well, I highly recommend that everybody out there go. We have your links in the description. Go check you out and give you their support. And yes, although I would not apply the quote of sunlight being the best disinfectant to personal wound care, if you find yourself in that situation, peroxide, some kind of grain alcohol, Neosporin, bandage it. But the principle is very much appreciated. Dr. Robert Epstein, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well. So this has been Dr. Robert Epstein. Appreciate it. You know what I realized? I sent him to the wrong website because he has like 19.
He does have a lot of
right off the bat. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I figured that was the centralized one, but it is a valuable dashboard that people can use. And like you said, it could go away. He is going to be targeted. I know we've gone late here today because I thought that was important enough for people to see, and we'll take some more questions on Mug Club. Also, if you are not watching right now, we're going to be playing Hipster or Hobo on Mug Club. That's fun.
If you're not a member of Mug Club.
If you're not a member of Mug Club.
They're not watching right now. They have no idea what we're saying.
Show him your support. And we are gearing up for the election, 2024. We are gearing up, like he said, anecdotal is not enough. And for the first time in modern election history, this November, we will be able to provide you the kind of data in real time that has never been afforded to anyone of a new media audience. It's sort of been, we've had gatekeepers in legacy media, and guess what? They've lost their right. They've lied to you.
Yep.
We are all hands on deck. So
we're taking it back.
Yep. And that can't happen without your support. So if you're watching right now on Rumble, click that button. You get to continue on Mug Club and, of course, get access to everything else there. And if you are on YouTube, I don't know what you're still doing after that interview. Piss off.